The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated.
I'd like to welcome everyone back to the Nova Society. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with my panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Mark Bound. Today we will be answering listener emails, and we have a question from John, who lives in Indianapolis, Indiana. And John asks, it's being reported that the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, sold stocks 2 days before the tariff announcement. I know you all will think this is unethical, but is it legal? Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, also sold a large holding in Trump Media on April 2nd. That was Trump's announced Liberation Day, so-called. I think this was required, but I'm just not sure. Alrighty. Mark, Scott, who would like to start off?
Well, I mean, I guess I can start. I'm not a lawyer, so, but I do believe that insider trading is illegal. I don't think you have to be a lawyer to know that. And is it unethical? Yes, of course. Is it illegal? Yes, of course. And should they be doing it? No. Are they going to face scrutiny from Congress? I don't think so. Anybody?
No, I mean, the Pam Bondi thing, that was actually required. As the Attorney General, it would have been a conflict of interest to keep it. And that was something, if I remember correctly, and I'm pretty sure I do remember correctly, that she did have to get rid of those holdings. And it was quite a sizable. I think when you really look at that story, it was like how much it was. We're talking millions. So obviously she was all in on this Trump Media thing, but the Bondi thing I think was one of those things that was required, because when you become the Attorney General, you really do have to tell everybody, what you've got and stuff. So yeah, I think that one was legit. Like I say, the only surprise was how much of it there was that she had in that Trump Media stock. As for the Transportation Secretary, now, of course, he's reporting that he had nothing to do with it. Those are his fund managers that did that, and they were acting upon the instructions and the standards that fund, which was a retirement fund, basically had laid out. Okay, I guess if Congress wanted to find out about this, they basically go to the manager and say, okay, what made you make this decision? And then make the manager, come clean. If it was all legit, great. If this was a standard practice thing, great. Does seem a little odd that it was 2 days before the tariffs, and it was, it was a considerable, and it was, I read about it, he sold 27 different stocks. Of the 27, there were a few there that were greatly impacted by the tariffs, but not all of them were. So was it something to hide the ones that were going to be infected by the tariffs, hide it within a whole bunch of other things that maybe weren't? Could be, not sure. If it's found that he was doing insider trading, which is very, very possible, because he was a huge proponent of these tariffs, even though he's the transportation. I don't know why the transportation secretary would care, but okay. Yeah, Congress should look into it. I agree with Scott. They probably won't, because it's one of their own people, and they will just let this slide by, and in 2 weeks, the American public will have totally forgotten about it, because I can almost guarantee you the American public forgot about Pam Bondi from back on April 2nd. Which is a shame.
But I do have a question. For me, if Pam Bondi's sale is a requirement, then I still have a quibble with when she did it, because she was already the Attorney General, and ought she not to have sold her stock when she became Attorney General, when she was confirmed, rather than waiting until this big announcement right before there were going to be tariffs, and right before she knew the market was going to go down into the, below the sewer system, so that she was going to make a huge killing? And that is insider trading, as Scott pointed out, because she had knowledge ahead of time that others did not have, which means that she was privileged in a way others were not. So she ought to have sold her. I mean, she's been in a conflict of interest, or she's ought to have sold her stocks since she has been Attorney General. She's been Attorney General for a while. So ought she not to have sold those earlier legally?
Yeah, absolutely. She should have, I would
So
say.
she's been sitting on them until it was greatly to her benefit. And then all of a sudden she sells them when it is financially greatly to her benefit. So I would say that that is illegal because it is insider trading and it's certainly unethical. And of course, as Scott said, no, she's not going to be investigated. She already ought to lose her bar license because of all the illegal stuff that she's been doing and saying and getting her DOJ lawyers to do. And that's likely probably not going to happen either, unfortunately.
Well, I think we got to look at the Pam Bondi thing. We've got to say, okay, how much money was made off of this? This Trump media company was really kind of going in the dumper for quite some time. It did, when it was an IPO, it was offered, and boy, everybody jumped on it, and those that did put their entire life savings into it were like, after about 2 months, went, oh my gosh, this is like a disaster. Which is probably the same thing that Steve Cohen is saying about Juan Soto right now. But anyway, I mean, it really is. We got to look at, was money made? As I say, there was a lot of money that she had invested, which again surprises me a bit because, okay, she was the Attorney General of the state of Florida. They don't make millions of dollars. I mean, that's just not. I'd like to know where the money came from. Number one. That would be nice.
As I understand it, she accepted bribes and all other sorts of things when she was Assistant Attorney General or whatever. So she hasn't seen a dollar or a coin that she doesn't like.
Well, okay. Well, we're not going to go on speculation of she did bribes. We have no proof of that.
No,
our understanding of it, we could probably look at her and say, sure, she looks like she's probably a crook, but we don't do a conjecture here in the fact. Okay. Yeah, okay, but it makes sense.
She got the money from somewhere.
I mean, I don't know what her husband does. I have no idea what her husband does.
Don't know.
I don't know. So, we kind of look at that. But the question is, did she make money? And the Trump stock was not a big money maker. I mean, if she broke even, be honest with you, I don't care. I mean, if she made, a little bit of money, I don't care. If she made double or triple her money, now you've got my attention. Why it took so long, I don't know. If there is a true rule, and this I honestly don't know what the rule was that said that she really had to get rid of it. I'd have to look into that, but there has to be a time limit. It can't be immediate. She was sworn in on February 5th, and we're talking, 8 weeks later. Yeah.
Look, it's not just this, right? It was a Fox Business News correspondent named Charles Gasparino who said that he had information that people inside the Trump White House were alerting certain Wall Street executives that they were close to getting a trade agreement with India. There's been, a good deal of speculation about insider trading, not just from the Trump administration, but also Congress people. Trump, of course, does everything out in the open so everybody can see that he's being corrupt because he doesn't care. He knows he's going to be immune from it. Letitia James, the New York State AG, is using a 100-year-old law called the Barton Act to investigate the White House and insider trading, possible insider trading. So maybe we will learn a little bit more about it. This is a lawless administration. Trump has always felt that he's above the law. He's acting on that. People around him are acting on that. He won't go out on a limb for anybody but himself, and said that when he was asked that he could only testify to him as to himself, he couldn't vouch for anybody else in the administration. And It just seems like, this is going to get swept underneath the rug as time goes on, because in the way of the Trump administration, our friend here from Indianapolis may care about this, but tomorrow there'll be something else to care about, and this one will disappear. Like, how many people are even thinking about Signalgate anymore, right? They keep it coming fast and furious, and it's hard to keep up with all the scandals that are going on. Trump goes out there and says, this is a great time to buy. Well, he's saying that to everybody, so I guess the SEC can't get too angry about that. But, as if you're in the know and you get that signal and you're like, oh, this is a great time to buy. Trump is saying that it could be a great time to sell. It could be a great time to buy. Whatever the code is that they've agreed on beforehand, that's the signal that they're all waiting for. Look, it goes back. I mean, Congress has been guilty of this for a long time. These members of Congress who make, $170,000 a year, somehow all become millionaires when they go down to Washington, D.C. And most of it is because they have information that the rest of us don't have.
Yeah, and this really isn't anything really new when you're looking at, the Tea Party scandal. I mean, there's been so many of these kind of things that have existed. But just for a fun fact about Pam Bondi. First of all, she's not married. She doesn't have a domestic partner. Bondi was a prosecutor and spokesman in Hillsborough County, Florida, where she was an assistant state's attorney. Now I'm going to make the connection here. You remember whenever they say, if you look something up, if the fifth one, you're probably going to find Hitler. Bondi prosecuted former Major League Baseball player Dwight Gooden in 2006 for violating his terms of probation and for substance abuse. So there's your New York Mets connection, Scott.
Yeah, well, they got Doc.
They got Doc.
It seems like low-hanging fruit to me.
Well, yeah, it really was. Probably didn't take an awful lot. There's nothing in her biography that would suggest where she would be able to come up with the money to do. But again, she has a domestic partner since 2017. He is, she went to University of Florida and Stetson University for her law. Another surprising fact about Pam Bondi, she only became Republican in 2000. She was a Democrat before that. Kind of funny how that kind of goes. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. The Pam Bondi thing, that's something we'd really have to look up the law. Yes, the transportation secretary thing, that does seem a little on the fishy side, but like Scott said, nobody's going to look into it from the Congress. I mean, the Democrats will probably cry about it a little bit, but and within 2 weeks, nobody will remember it. So hopefully we answered that as best we could.
Well, yeah.
But it's a good question.
Yeah, no, it's an
it's
question.
Nice when we get listener questions that they show they're paying attention.
Oh, yeah.
They're paying attention.
It's to me though, whether and Mark, you know far more about the law than I do. To me, I was thinking back to some of the past presidents, including Andrew Jackson, who couldn't. I don't know if he was offered elephant tusks like ivory. Somebody was offered something fairly minimal, and he said, "Oh, these are a watch." Something like that. And this is attractive. Can I keep it? And he said to Congress, and they said, no, you can't keep that. And it had to go into some museum, or it had to go somewhere. So, pursuant to this airplane, which is a whole other issue. But to me, it really doesn't matter whether Bondi made money or not. Her potential insider trading, and the whole appearance of wrongdoing that she has had throughout her entire tenure thus far, she's not upstanding. And to me, whether or not she made money is largely irrelevant. Her behavior overall is far from the opposite of what I would expect from an attorney general and an attorney and an officer of the court. And that bothers me intensely. the law is supposed to be without fear or favor. And I mean, in her hearing before the Senate, she couldn't even say that Donald Trump would ever give an illegal order. And I mean, of course, if she had any brain at all, she would know that he was going to. And she couldn't say even that he would, much less that she would refuse to follow it. So, I mean, to me, that would disqualify her immediately. And it was obvious what she was going to do. And she should never have been confirmed. So, to me, whether or not she made money is really irrelevant. I don't know. What do you think? Doesn't really matter?
I don't think I mean, the question that, yeah, you can get offended by it, get very upset by it. But first of all, if nobody's going to do anything about it, that makes the whole argument irrelevant. And it truly does. And the only thing I can say to our listener in Indianapolis is that, yeah, it stinks to high heaven. Nobody can argue that one. But the problem is that there's no political will, or with the Republicans in charge, to do anything about it. So it basically makes it a moot point.
Right. I think that's it. Right. She's quite wealthy. She's gotten quite wealthy in a very small amount of time since leaving the Florida Attorney General's office. And, if you want to get rich,
she was an agent of Qatar.
She was a lobbyist. Yeah,
a lot of money.
She gets speaking gigs, which is cool. I don't know if she's written a book, but that's a good way to get wealthy. But whatever it is, only Fetterman among the Democrats voted to confirm her, so she belongs to the Republicans, and they're going to have to live with it or come to reckoning with it or whatever it is. But they don't seem to care, and this is at the end of a very, very long line of scandals and things that we need to be concerned about when it comes to the Trump administration.
Mike Johnson said something about correcting the president or monitoring this or taking care of that. I think it was the tariffs. It wasn't in his lane. Mm. And he stays in his lane. Well, the power to address the issue, whether it was tariff or habeas corpus, those are both congressional powers, and he is the top member of the Congress. So it's very much in his lane.
Yeah. So I want to be clear that I would never hit him. I don't hit people
neither would I.
anymore.
No. I don't punch anybody, but
Brooke, I'll say this. Mike Johnson needs to get an app that he can share with his son so he could remind him whenever his father enables corruption, and just send him a note and say, Dad, I see you're enabling corruption again. Maybe you should stop. That would be a cool thing for Mike Johnson to do. He has that other app that he shares with his son about when they get turned on somehow, sexually turned on, and they share that with each other to prevent one another from indulging themselves in autoerotic behavior. Oh, so yeah, that's true.
That's just creepy.
And of course we all know that when he was 25, he had a teenage boy before he got married and was set straight by his now wife, who was then a woman who helped people pray the gay away.
Yep. I mean, it is. There's a as far as his face.
Indianapolis. Now we're really in the weeds.
Now we're really in the weeds in Indianapolis. Sorry for this. I mean, yes, he does have a punchable face. A lot of people say I look like Otto von Bismarck. Maybe, I don't know if that's true or not, but it might be the mustache thing.
My only point is that nothing is going to happen, as you say, because Mike Johnson said, well, this is out of my lane. No, it's not.
It's not. No, that's not the only reason.
Right. Governing is definitely out of the lane.
It's definitely.
They don't do that. They don't govern.
Right. So. I mean, I have to admit, when I was reading this email, and I'll fully admit it, I had to look it up. I didn't know that this happened because there's so, as you say, flooding the. I just never knew it. It never crossed my radar. I might have seen it, but it just seemed like another. Yeah. Okay. Well. somebody's screwing. So yeah,
somebody in
crossed.
the Trump administration is doing something wrong.
Yeah, really.
What's more of a Sean Duffy scandal? This insider trading stuff, or when he told everybody that flying into Newark was safe, but secretly told his wife not to fly there and booked her a flight into another airport.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So we're sorry, Indianapolis. We really are. And yeah, that's the thing. And I think Brooks hit the nail on the head on a lot of the issues that we talk about. Steve Bannon said, flood the network, flood it with also, because nobody can keep track of it all. And you're going to focus on the things that are important to you. And as I say, until I was reading this email, I was like, what the heck are they talking? Why don't I know this? And it was probably on my feed someplace. But it just is, again, I looked at it and said, oh, yeah, another Trump appointee doing something wrong. Okay.
Let's see, taking Medicaid away from millions of children, or this, what's going to...
Really, yeah. So hopefully we answered that.
Yeah. So thank you, John, for your question. And of course, we meandered, and that's largely my fault for, because I didn't want to forget the Mike Johnson comment,
or the Andrew Jackson.
Or the Andrew Jackson. Yeah.
Or the fact that Pam Bondi prosecuted the doc.
Yeah.
Which I did not know. I did not know. And I didn't know she wasn't married, but it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's fine, whatever she wants to do in her private life. It's not my business. But yeah, I know about the Mike Johnson grooming. Every time I see his face, I think, you ever see the very, very old film where it's like among the first attempts to do special effects, where they've got a man's face which is covered in dough, and they throw something at it on the screen and it splatters. I'll have to, it's very old, it's black and white, it's like from the 1915, 1914, I don't know if it's called The Man in the Moon or something. They were trying to do H.G.
First
Wells.
Man in the Moon.
Yes.
And it basically shows a rocket going into the moon's eye, because it was the face of, yeah,
exactly. And it splatters, and it's a guy with dough all over it. That's what Mike Johnson's face reminds me of.
Okay. The moon.
Yep.
And good night, Gracie.
Yeah. And just totally doughy. Like there's just nothing that, anyway. So John, I do hope we answered your question, and thank you for the question. And thank you for listening, and thank you to all our listeners, and do stay safe. And we wish everyone a wonderful weekend and a wonderful Memorial Day. Take care, everyone.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, BH Conflict Resolution Services, a full-service dispute resolution firm offering expert, cost-effective mediation services to couples, groups, and businesses. BHCRS can be reached at www.bhcrs.com.